The question of whether we are trapped in an endless cycle of birth, death, and rebirth has echoed through millennia of spiritual inquiry, emerging most vividly within the rich philosophical tapestries of Hinduism and Buddhism. Both traditions speak of samsara, a ceaseless wheel of existence that binds sentient beings to suffering and impermanence. Yet, while they share the concept of this cyclical entrapment, their approaches to liberation diverge in subtle and profound ways. To understand whether we are truly trapped in samsara, and how liberation might be attained, demands a journey into the depths of ancient wisdom, the intricate workings of karma, and the mysterious nature of consciousness and selfhood. At the heart of samsara lies the universal condition of suffering, or dukkha in Buddhist terms, and dukkha in Sanskrit, equally lamented in Hindu philosophy. Life, as experienced in the world of samsara, is marked by impermanence, dissatisfaction, and endless craving. This cycle is propelled by ignorance and desire, the twin fires that fuel the rebirth process. Each life is seen as a new turn of the wheel, inevitably shaped by the accumulated consequences of past actions, karma, that determine the form, circumstances, and experiences into which one is born. The soul or the self, depending on the tradition, carries these karmic imprints forward, binding it ever tighter to the recurring patterns of existence. In Hinduism, samsara is intricately linked to the notion of Atman, the eternal, unchanging soul or self. The individual Atman is trapped in samsara because of avidya, spiritual ignorance that obscures the soul's true nature and its unity with Brahman, the ultimate reality or cosmic consciousness. The bondage is thus a metaphysical misidentification, mistaking the ephemeral body and mind for the true self. Liberation, or moksha, is the realization of this fundamental oneness and the consequent release from the illusion of separateness. Through knowledge, jnana, devotion, bhakti, righteous action, karma, or disciplined meditation, yoga, the soul awakens to its divine essence and transcends the cycle of rebirth. In this vision, samsara is not an eternal prison but a temporary state from which the soul can be freed through spiritual insight and practice. Buddhism, by contrast, offers a radical reinterpretation of samsara by denying the existence of an eternal self, anatta. The cycle of birth and rebirth continues not because an immutable soul migrates from body to body but because of a perpetuating stream of consciousness conditioned by craving and ignorance. Samsara is understood as a flow of dependent origination, pratyaya samutpada, an endless chain of cause and effect in which beings remain ensnared by clinging to illusions of permanence and selfhood. The suffering inherent in samsara arises from this attachment and the false identification with transient phenomena. Liberation in Buddhism is nirvana, a state beyond existence and non-existence, where craving ceases and the chain of rebirth is broken. It is not the realization of a self but the extinguishing of the fires that sustain the cycle. Both traditions thus converge on the idea that samsara is a state of bondage characterized by ignorance and suffering but diverge sharply on what it is that must be liberated. Hinduism posits a hidden, true self whose realization ends samsara, while Buddhism challenges the very notion of a self, framing liberation as the cessation of the illusion of self and desire. Despite this philosophical divergence, both agree that liberation is attainable through disciplined effort. Ethical living and spiritual practice, the question then arises, are we truly trapped? The cyclical nature of samsara can indeed feel like an inescapable labyrinth, especially as life unfolds in patterns of joy and pain, growth and loss, hope and despair. Yet the spiritual traditions do not present samsara as a fatalistic destiny but as a condition that can be transcended. The very recognition of samsara's nature becomes the first step toward liberation. This recognition demands deep self-inquiry, moral responsibility, and transformative insight, practices that unravel the bonds of ignorance and craving. In Hinduism, this liberation is often portrayed as the soul's return to its source. A joyous reunion with the infinite. It is the dawn of self-realization, where individual consciousness merges with universal consciousness, dissolving all dualities. This mystical union is not merely a metaphysical event but a radical reorientation of existence, where the cycle of birth and death loses its grip. The liberated soul no longer experiences samsara's pain and is beyond the reach of karma's binding effects. In Buddhism, liberation is the profound peace of nirvana, free from suffering, craving, and delusion. It is neither annihilation nor eternal existence but a transcendence of conceptual categories. The awakened being, or arahant, sees through the illusion of permanence and self, living in harmony with the flow of reality without clinging or aversion. This freedom is accessible here and now through meditation, ethical conduct, and wisdom, not deferred to some distant afterlife. The interplay of these perspectives invites a contemplation of freedom itself. Are we trapped by external forces or by the illusions we carry within? Are we bound by some cosmic prison or by the stories we tell ourselves about who we are? Samsara, then, can be seen as both a metaphysical reality and a psychological condition. Its will turns within us as much as in the cosmos, fueled by the mind's cravings and fears. In the end, whether one embraces the Hindu vision of an eternal self-seeking reunion with the divine or the Buddhist path of no self and cessation of suffering, both offer a beacon of hope. They reveal that what feels like entrapment is also an invitation, to awaken, to see clearly, to transcend. The cycle of samsara is not a trap from which escape is impossible, but a challenge to be met with courage and insight, a mystery to be unfolded with patience and compassion. Thus, we are both caught and free, imprisoned by ignorance and liberated by understanding, spinning on samsara's wheel yet also capable of stepping beyond it. The ancient wisdom of Hinduism and Buddhism beckons us to explore this paradox deeply, to live not as passive victims of fate but as active seekers of the ultimate freedom that lies at the heart of existence itself.